Okay, today I'm talking to top chef Kenny Gilbert. Um, he is a top chef in many ways. So he was on season 7 of Top Chef, and he was voted fan favorite. I watched the first 2 episodes last night, and he, without even like knowing that he would be like the rock star of the season, he was. And the more I look into this person, this chef, the more I'm like amazed by him. So he had an article yesterday published by Zagat. So you can go to their Instagram. So a couple of days ago, so Zagat is like, I pronounce it Zagat. That's how my parents pronounced it as I was growing up. Other people say like Zagat and all sorts of things, but that's for me what I say. So, anyway, it's like one of the main sort of restaurant review directories that everyone relies on, and it's those red books, and you see them, they're like city based, so you'll have like your Zagat guide for San Diego or New York or whatever, and it will rank all the restaurants and you can read little bits about it. So it's just as prestigious as the Michelin guide. Anyway, so the other day they came out with an article written by Kenny, and I just read it, and it's not like any old article. It is like super opinionated and amazing. So here he is. So just to give you a sense, so he has been on Top Chef. He's beat Bobby Flay on Beat Bobby Flay. He cooks holiday meals for Oprah, Jeff Bezos, all sorts of other people. But I think once he joins, I'm going to get him on. Hold on. There's something so cool about this person when I start to read like his thoughts and who he is as like a person in this country and what he's thinking about. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm basically just like praising you. Um,
Thank you.
I mean, for like so I just spent like the last half hour reading your piece in Zagat from yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, as someone who loves writing, that's not just like any piece. Like that was pretty awesome.
Well, thank you. I didn't, I don't know, when Chris reached out to me to discuss kind of my thoughts and whatnot, what's been going on. And I was, I didn't know really what to say, but he kind of teed it up and I was kind of in an aggravated place. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I literally just kind of recap my life and just kind of all the frustrations that have come about. I felt like he kind of teed it up, and so that I can actually really just express myself and talk about it. And
Okay.
that's kind of what kind of came out.
Are
The
you expect
conversation.
are you expecting to hear from Sean Brock?
I don't know. I think it's interesting. There's going to be a part two to the article. We actually had a further conversation yesterday, myself, Chris, and my publicist, Nicole. Um, the article was not about Sean Brock, by any means. I mean, the
Definitely
art,
not. I mean,
no,
just to give people like heads up, like so Sean Brock is this chef. He happens to be white. He also has had like quite a history with like being drunk in public. And Kenny makes the point in this Zagat article he wrote this week of like we shouldn't herald someone who not only is not like the inventor of barbecue, but is also like has kind of like a sloppy work ethic. Is
yeah,
that right?
well, no, I wouldn't. Sloppy work ethic is not it.
Okay.
He's very compulsive and very passionate about what he does. And I think if you look at his story on Netflix, on Chef's Table, it really paints a picture of exactly how he kind of came up, what he's about, his vices, like we all have a vice. We have
Yeah.
something that we have all have skeletons. My whole point was to the conversation wasn't about Sean. The conversation was about white privilege, and how a lot of things that have been created from African Americans, Black culture, has been then taken, and through the systemic racism, basically the white person basically thrives, whereas in the Black culture, it takes us a lot longer to accumulate success. And the best one of the best shows that I've seen on Netflix is Ugly Delicious by David Chang.
Yeah.
David Chang, and one in particular that I love is the one on fried chicken. And the fried chicken one talked about, and it's a perfect example of systemic racism that everyone I think should go out and look at, because it's not, just like it says, it's not defined as one particular thing, but it's really the system is how it all comes about. In this particular story, David Chang is highlighting fried chicken, the history of fried chicken, talking about hot chicken in particular in Nashville. And when he talks about it, he's specifically talking, I think, about Prince's hot chicken, and then Hattie B's in Nashville. And the one of the hard questions that David Chang had asked, which I think is, I think that particular episode is like an Emmy worthy show, because it was well written and really well done. And he asked a hard question. Sean, and then the owner of Hattie B's, was sitting there, and he says, how do you feel about the fact that you're taking something that has been created in a Black community, and then you brought it over into a white community, which,
Yeah.
if you think about the definition of the systemic racism, and you talk about the red line areas, the areas that, from a tax standpoint for the schools and whatnot, if you're in a really nice, thriving suburban area that's middle and upper class, the taxes that go in there because of the homes and everything else is a lot greater. So you're going to have a lot more opportunities at the schools in that area. Somewhere
Yeah.
in a poverty-ridden area, where, projects, low income, there's not as much taxes coming through, so there's not as much opportunities. The teachers don't get paid as much. The school doesn't have as much funding and all that kind of stuff. Well, it's the same thing. The shot was taken across the street, looking in a Hattie B's, and seeing a line around the building, and it's super busy, and the business is thriving. And then you have people trickling in at Prince's, which, that's what started it all.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a perfect example. If you take this particular concept and you take it from this one area and you put it into if it's in a C market, right? And then you move it into an A market, don't you think it's going to thrive better in an A market? Yeah, you're going to have more rent, and rent's going to be more expensive, stuff like that. But that business is more likely going to thrive better in that A market. Well, you might only have the funds to be able to start off in a C market, But the point of the question was, how do you feel? He asked the question, how do you feel is going to happen when that business basically potentially can go out of business because of what you're creating in this other market? And how do you feel because you stole an idea and a concept that you had nothing to do with? You stole this concept, recreated it in a white populated area, and that could potentially put this other business out of place. But you're saying that you're celebrating. You're saying that you're doing it because you're envious and you're supportive. Well, are you taking the proceeds of that and actually giving it back to this person that owns this restaurant? I don't think. Maybe they are. Maybe they are behind the
I
scenes,
don't
and we
think
don't
so.
know that. I don't think
Yeah.
so. So that was really
Yeah.
the point of
No,
it.
you made a bunch of points. Like, okay, the thing is, like, when you read a standard article written by a standard chef, most often it's not going to be that interesting, right? And I read yours, and I was just like expecting a basic story, and you made
Yeah.
like so many strong points about culture. I think everyone should go read that article on Zagat. I'm so glad they chose you, and I'm so glad you have a part two. The other interesting point that I heard you make was, what was it about? Oh, it was about Jenkins. And you were like, that place like has been around for like 80 or something years, but like, frankly, it's not great. And it keeps showing up on lists because people aren't actually going down. Like, journalists aren't actually going to eat
That's
it.
right.
So
That's
like,
right.
basically, like, is the point you're making that like top 50 Black restaurant lists are just getting like recirculated, and people aren't doing like due diligence and actually like keeping it real when it comes to tasting things?
Well, no, it's not even top 50 blacklist. Like we're talking about top 50 barbecue in the country. We're not, and that's the thing. I grew up in a culture and an environment that was, my dad was from Chicago, my mom was from St. Augustine. We grew up in a middle class area. We were like the only black family in that area. And then you cross over the fence to another area where we live, and then it's culture diverse, a little bit more cultural diversity. And so like I was raised where I didn't actually see color. I didn't start dealing with, racism and certain things that I was even aware of until my teens and my mid 20s.
Hmm.
So for me, like that's just how I was raised.
Hmm.
Um, I want to be looked at as, hey, Kenny Gilbert is a great chef, not
Yeah.
black chef, not it's not, hey, this is, when you look up Mike Vitagio, and you look at what he did at Inc. or Brian Vitagio, what his brother's done with like, Volt and something like that. You look at them, they're great chefs. They're very talented chefs, and they're being acknowledged as great chefs. You're not saying, well, this is a great white chef.
Yeah.
You're saying he's a great chef. And that's basically what I want to basically break down those barriers, because at the end of the day, I get up and I cook for my community. And that means anyone that wants to come in and eat with me, that's what
Yeah.
I'm serving. And those are my points, is like that article, or what I'm talking about with Jenkins, if you think about the history, yes, originally it probably was absolutely amazing when the grandfather was there and he was doing it, because the grandson ended up working for me and being one of my lead cooks and one of my pit masters at Gilbert Social for years. And we used to talk about this all the time. That's why actually I can talk about it and not actually feel like I'm doing anything wrong or bad, because we had the
Yeah.
conversations. The reality is the product, and it's not even about Jenkins as much as the writers are not
Yeah.
going out and checking out the establishments. And it's
Right.
not just about black businesses. It's in
Okay, that's what I
general.
wanted to get you to clarify. Like, is
Yeah.
your point about Jenkins that like journalists are even worse at covering black-owned restaurants, or you just think they're not going out to taste anything? Period. Like, it needs to be more thorough, and we need to not recycle articles and lists.
I think that if I tell you that I think it's truth in what you write. If you're saying that, if you have the response, you're a freelance writer and you're talking about like, hey, you know what, I'm going to write about the top 25 seafood restaurants that fit into this box. Seafood as in your classic seafood boils, your fried shrimp, catfish, hush puppies, that kind of thing. What are the top 25 in this region? Then to me, you should actually go and eat at the places you should know every restaurant that fits in that category.
Yep.
And then you should have tried all those restaurants in that list. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if the restaurant owner was from New Orleans and they're Vietnamese, because they came over there through immigration and helping out the the shrimping industry,
Yeah.
or they're black or they're French or whatever. The reality is, make it where is accurate. Like, so then,
I get your point. I really appreciate your point. And at the same time, it's a bit impractical. Like, having been a food writer, like, who's paying for the food budget for you to go
yeah,
all to
mm-hmm,
every spot in North Carolina? Like,
yeah,
I like your point that you said, you respect the guy who did 365 barbecue places. You said you like respect him more than anyone because at least he was like that much more thorough. But
yeah.
you're right. There needs to be some like correction with how food journalists are reporting on things. Like, you can't say top 10 seafood restaurants if you just went to like the 50 that the last writer checked out.
Well, and
It's
listen
just
to
not
the
accurate.
and this is the reality also. Like, I'm a Ritz Carlton trained chef. From the time I was 18 years old, I was working the Ritz Carlton, and when I was running, a AAA, mobile and five diamond 4-star restaurant for years, every month we had the same way that you have Yelpers going out. Well, if you go to the Ritz Carlton, say you go stay at the Ritz Carlton, at some point you're gonna get a survey after your stay. How was your stay? Where did you eat? How was how was the valet service? They're going to ask you all these questions. So we got a report card every month telling us how we did based on the thousands of people that came in and dined with us. And
Yeah.
then they compared that to the other restaurants that was in the company. And then you were able to say, okay, we averaged 4.5 or 4.8 eight points, and we're basically the number one in the company right this month, as of year to date or whatever.
Yeah.
That I'm used to that kind of rating. Not
Yeah.
and it's anonymous. The person doesn't necessarily, you coming in for dinner with your loved one or whatever for a special occasion or just whatever. You're not going in there saying, hey, I'm necessarily, you're like, hey, I'm staying at this hotel. I heard this restaurant is amazing. We're gonna go in here and eat.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily thinking about, oh, this chef happens to be German or French or whatever. If it's that type of food that you like, then you go there and then you review it accordingly. I think that it is unrealistic for a writer to say, hey, you know what, I'm going, you can't eat at every single place. Well, then don't say that it's the
You're
top,
top 10 in the state. Yeah.
because it's not. Like, if you take and this is, and I don't care what chef. You don't have to be black. You don't have to be white. Whatever. Every chef. If you ask Jeff McInnes, with Root and Bone in New York and his Root and Bones in Miami and his partner Janine Booth, if you ask them versus Timon Baloo down in Miami, whatever, everyone wants to just be reviewed. Like, just come and check us out and
Yeah.
then say what it is. But don't all of a sudden say, hey, these are the top 7 people in the Southeast, and you haven't even eaten it at our place.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair. The verbiage as a writer, you have to actually make it where it's accurate. You're writing.
100%.
I mean,
We
that
need
to
to
me,
get this
yeah,
point out. It's been too long. I think it's just like we
yeah.
got this like internet obsession where everyone wanted these like top 10 and like top 20, and like it wasn't practical. Like we just need to change that whole thing. The point you're making is perfect. A friend in Miami says, can you touch on the idea of food deserts and your thoughts on how the media decides which areas are considered food deserts?
Food deserts. Um, I think that kind of leads into our point about what we're saying is, like, there's places that no one ever just goes to.
Like
I think
Tallahassee,
that
had that experience in Tallahassee.
Tallahassee, Jacksonville is a perfect example. I've been here. I've spent thousands of dollars donating to charities all around the country. I've been featured in Southeast Food and Wine doing 3-4 different events during that year, and you get like, oh yeah, I heard about Jacksonville. I have a cousin up there. We never go there though. That's typically, we are a desert in Jacksonville, and there's certain areas, like you could say, like Tallahassee, Gainesville. There's just certain, and there's people that are grinding, cooking for the community, and doing great things.
Yeah.
If you put them in comparison to some chefs that are doing very high end stuff, it's like, make it apples for apples. If it's fine dining for fine dining, if it's upscale dining for upscale dining, it's very
Yeah.
casual for casual. Make it where it's accurate. But yeah, the person asking the question is right. Yeah, like, how do we change these food deserts? It's going to change because it only going to change is actually when the writers actually stand up and they want to do it. If you think
Yeah.
about the writer out in L.A., Jonathan Goldman, that
Yeah.
ended up passing away. Yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
basically, he went around and made sure that he ate at all the places that a lot of people would never go to.
Yeah.
Like, he was searching for great food, and it could have been in a strip mall, it could have been a food truck, it could have been anything, and he
Yeah.
helped put them on the map. And he actually literally went and ate all these places. So don't tell me
Yeah.
that it can't be done. If you're going out, like, at some point, even as a writer, like, yeah, there's a budget, and you say, okay, I want you, whoever you're writing for says, oh, we need to write a story about, lionfish. So we need to talk about all the places that cook with lionfish. Okay, you do your research, and then these are the places legitimately have had on their menu for X amount of time. So you go and try them out. Oh man, you know what? This place is really expensive. I don't think I'm gonna be able to afford it. They have 4 different dishes with lionfish on the menu. I really want to try them all, but I can only really try one of them because my budget says I can
Yeah.
only afford that. Well, is it really truthful in what you're saying, you're writing about, if you have limitations? You know, AAA and Forbes and Gallup and JD Power and Associates, all these places, they put together they put these reviewers to go out. They do give them a budget. They give them a realistic, but they're
Yeah.
saying, hey, we want you to write. You're going to write and review about this because we want to make it accurate. So, to me, that's, if you're going to do it, just do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really good point. I mean, one comment is just like it's food writing is almost at this point like passion fueled. I mean, like the people that you're mentioning, like they were the fortunate people who got budgets or did it for no money. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever. Like food writing,
yeah,
that's a whole nother topic. I'm not gonna, spend too much of your time talking about it.
yeah.
What's your opinion, just quickly? I wrote for a long time for the Michelin Guide. What's your opinion as of the Michelin Guide, especially in terms of racism?
I think it's great that Michelin is has basically entered the U.S. Market, and it's flooded through obviously New York and Chicago, certain places. They've only hit certain cities. I just don't think it's. I think if you're going to do it, if you say you're going to come into the United States, and make it where you go into the United States, and you're going to do it everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that when you listen to some of these other chefs, these chefs that have some of them committed suicide for for trying to stay at this certain level and not,
Yeah.
I mean, I think mental illness is a whole nother conversation, but I
Right.
think that um, I just think it should be. I think every chef, if we actually polled chefs that are talking about this particular question, they're all going to say just make it fair and make it realistic. If I want to run, I was in that world for a long time, like 10 years. That the linen, the Crisofil carts, that you have an amenity for tea service, for coffee service, for your palate cleanser for after this course. I mean, every detail. If you want to be in that world, then you have to be obsessed. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be obsessed and passionate. So your obsession and passion is going to be even more intense if you feel like you're not getting your just due, because food is subjective. If I decide to take feral quail that's raised in Mississippi, and then I get in and I decide I want to do kind of a Japanese kind of take on it. I'm marinating with miso and honey and sake, and I'm serving it with, a specific type of sticky rice and like a kombu broth with, togarashi and blah 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 blah. And I make it, it's very sexy and it's on the right type of china, whatever. The person can say, "Oh, I would have never imagined doing this with quail. I would have done this with black cod. I would have done this with maybe salmon or Arctic char." It's all subjective. But if my inspiration at that time was for this, then it is what it is. As long as it's cooked properly, it's seasoned properly, you might not agree with combinations, but the reality is if it's presented beautifully, then rate it for what it is. Your
Yeah.
opinion that is very subjective. If you don't like on Top Chef, Tom Colicchio is awesome. He's awesome because he's freaking real and he's
Mm-hmm.
truthful. And if he says, you know what, I don't normally like okra, I'm gonna eat it, I'm gonna review it. But for me, I don't like it because usually more often than not it tastes slimy. These are things he specifically said. If you
Yeah.
give him something and it's not slimy and it's not just fried, and then you can say, wow, he and turn him around like Tiffany Deary had did in our season,
Yeah.
then he's like, wow, you converted me to actually liking okra
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
done this way. And I
Yeah.
think that with the Michelin Guide, I think that I think it's a matter of just getting the people like we're talking about being truthful in their writing and being accurate and not being so subjective and having it because it's all supposed to be anonymous, right? It shouldn't be
Yeah, the
like,
inspectors are anonymous. I mean, also the point of like it not being everywhere just leads us to like something like Yelp. Like, I want to hear your opinion. Like, I'm sure you like Yelp because it's thorough in terms of like geographic, um, where it exists geographically. Like, it's by the people of the people. Do you
yeah.
think Yelp is a good place to go to for like getting to the best restaurants in the country?
Well, I will say this. I think Yelp has become an amazing tool because it's social, right? It's taking an opinion of a person.
Got a plane, but you can keep going. I can hear you.
Um, I think that it's useful because it's taking the opinion of someone that has taken their hard-earned dollars,
Yeah.
and they're going in to eat, and then they're taking the time to write about their experience. The ones that take it very seriously, like the ones that you see that are elite Yelpers,
Yeah.
I think that's accurate. I think that's good because they won't make them an elite Yelper if because they've reviewed their writing style, how they're basically getting their points across, good, bad, or indifferent, and seeing that those reviews are, you know what, they're accurate. They haven't been pulled. They haven't said, oh, this person is said something derogatory, blah, blah, blah. It's accurate. So like for me, the restaurant that I've had in Jacksonville, there hasn't been a restaurant that I've had that wasn't a minimum of 4.5 stars for years, 5+ years. And it wasn't, and that, to me, that's the best way of connecting with the community, because if you write a review today about a dining experience you had with me yesterday or even 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
I get that review, I read that review, and then I look at all the details in that review, and then I make a comment. I'm commenting because I'm
Yeah.
taking a personal interest in my business. I'm
Yeah.
taking a personal interest in the person that reviewed me and saying thank you for reviewing me. Okay, if it's bad, if they come off trying to attack my people and ask them out, you can come in and say, you know what, we didn't have really the best service. The bathroom was dirty. My server didn't approach us after a minimum of 3 to 4 minutes. I didn't see them for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We had to wave
Yeah.
somebody down. You can go through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe we're in this, those are kind of situations where you have to be proactive. Man, we were in the shits. We got hit. We had 3 call offs. Be smart and actually do a post on your Facebook page and say, we had X amount of call offs. We had X amount of walk ins. We tried to take care of the guests the best we possibly could. We know we stumbled today. People want to see the humility. And
Yeah.
you have an opportunity on Yelp to react in that manner. So to me, you need to embrace it. And I learned that from my PR manager, Nicole, because she used to represent Bobby Flay for years. And Bobby embraced Yelp many moons ago. I mean, Bobby has all these shows. He's been on, he has a star. He knew that, listen, either I'm going to embrace it because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Either I'm going to embrace it and take it all in, or I could be potentially crucified. So it's all on how you manage it. So I don't mind it. I think the ones that actually having beef with Yelp are the ones that don't take the time to communicate, because you're basically saying that you're not going to communicate with the community that is supporting your restaurant by making a comment. So, I mean, because now you don't have to wait for, I don't think about AAA or mobile or Gallup or all these other reviewers. I don't care. I care more about Facebook, Yelp, Google, because you know what? These are real people that are going to be dining my place. And I would tell you, the amount of people that have come in and eaten in my restaurants that come in consistently because I interact with them, is amazing.
It's such good advice to restaurant owners to be. I feel like a lot of restaurant owners and like yoga studio owners, everyone with Yelp kind of just holds their breath and hopes for good reviews, and when they get bad ones, they're like, oh shit. But it's great advice to just engage. Kasha's asking, do you find people are more motivated to write a bad review on Yelp than a good one?
I think that there are some people that are out there like that. It's just like there's all types of people, right? There's, based on their personalities, whatever. I mean, I think Yelp has the algorithms in there to basically be able to look at what reviews they're going to keep and what reviews they're going to drop off based on those algorithms and how often that person writes and whatnot. And then you can go back and look at that. For example, if you see Karen Davis basically has written 10 bad reviews over her last 12 reviews, and they've been at these types of businesses or whatever, well, maybe this person is just a better person. You can kind of play that off, and those are probably going to drop off. But I don't think that people you don't wake up in the morning necessarily unless you're just in a very dark mental place,
right?
Just to say, I'm going to get up and just be negative today and just be miserable and just spread negativity throughout. More often than not, those people are dealing with their own demons, and it is what it is. I find that out of the thousands of reviews that I've received, and I've answered every single one, there's not one that I haven't answered in any of my restaurants, that I could say maybe 5% of the people were just kind of negative and that were just trying to get something free. But the other 95% wrote accurate reviews. And I've been lucky, at least in my market, to be able to say that. I can't speak how it is in Raleigh right now because I'm not there yet. But when I go there, we'll see.
All right, we got to talk about Top Chef.
Okay.
So I was like, I would have kept watching last night had it not been late at night, but I watched the first two episodes and like I wasn't even expecting you to be like the star because I just thought you were on this. I didn't know. And then you get on and you win the first three like
Mhm.
quick fire. You did it's everyone they get like all the chefs have to chop potatoes, then no, peel potatoes, the next one is chop onions, and the third one
Mhm.
is like dissect chicken. What
Yeah.
are you thinking in those moments when you're just dominating so clearly everything that's going on?
The go on Top Chef was an amazing experience, and I went on feeling pretty good that I would do pretty well because I actually cook. You know what I mean? Like I remember like when I make chicken stock in my restaurant, that restaurant at that particular time, we had a huge tilt skillet. And it took 4 cases of chicken bones in order to make this batch of stock. So I would have 4 cases of chicken next to me, and then I would break them all down. And I would turn the water on to the tilt skillet. And once it got to a certain level, I had to be done with all 4 cases of those chickens, where the breasts and the thighs and legs and wings were all separated, and I was able to throw all the carcasses into the pot. And it had to be done properly. You can't, at a five diamond, hotel resort, you can't sell some kind of chicken that is like all mangled up and looking all crazy.
Yeah.
So like I trained for it because I train for it every day. That's just what I do. I don't sit there, I'm
Yeah.
not a clipboard chef where I walk around. So for me, it was an amazing experience. And then those particular challenges really set off like who you are as a cook. If you don't know how to break down a chicken or dice potatoes or dice onions and peel potatoes, I mean, why are you even doing it?
I love that you said this is a different side. If people haven't watched it, go watch this. This is like the best thing to watch right now. You said, I don't see Angelo as a threat, more as an obstacle. And my boyfriend and I were like, oh, like we were just getting so excited about the person that you are. Um, so tell us like, what's the deal? Like, there's no way Angelo's ever going to watch this. I don't know what his last name is. What did you really feel about that guy? And also like, did race and racism play into that show at all?
Um, you know, when you're in it, it's not like if I'm doing an interview, which everyone did interviews every day.
Yeah.
You don't know, it's like a therapy session. You're talking to a producer, you're looking at a camera, and there's a sound guy. So you're expressive to however you feel. And they're going to tee up questions based on helping you remember certain parts that are happening during the challenges, because that's a part of the show. It's like you see us walk into the kitchen, we see Padma and Patrick, O'Connell standing there, and there's a bunch of crabs. Oh, it's going to be a crab challenge. Like you are talking about those moments. Like with Angelo, I looked at him as like he was an obstacle. He's not a threat. He's just someone that I need to step over and actually move past, because the reality is that everyone's an obstacle. You're an obstacle in your own mind when you're on the show. It's not about what everyone else is cooking. It's about what you're cooking and putting in front of the judges and blocking everything else out. That's the mental part of it, and people didn't realize that. I didn't experience any kind of race stuff. I know that at the end, Angela came to me, and he ended up saying at the end, he said, Kenny, at the beginning of the show, I didn't particularly like you because you were a threat. I looked at you as like the biggest threat on the show. And then comes to find out that you're a great guy and very talented, and I respect you. And I appreciated that because he, as a human being, he had the humility to be able to admit to saying, "Hey, Kenny, guess what? When the show comes out, I said a lot of stuff in interviews that you're probably gonna look at me as like just being this big asshole that I hated you." I was like, "Well, during the beginning, I did. I was threatened by you. I didn't hate you. I was threatened by you because I feared your ability to cook and think that I was not going to be able to win." And he was empathetic enough to be able to say and admit how he felt. And I have so much respect for him. I mean, over the years, the amount of times I've talked to all my chef friends from the show, alumni, and I was just talking to Kevin Spraga, who won my season this morning. We literally were having a political debate and talk
Yeah.
about what's going on right now in society, um, and we had these conversations at least once a month, or we just talk about food, like, hey man, where did you get this product from, or how are you dealing with this issue with staffing? So like, no, I didn't have any racial issues on the show.
Yeah.
I thought it was what it was. I mean, of course, when you get eliminated, you're like, this is bullshit, you know, but
Yeah.
like, it is what it is.
What was it like to work with Padma?
Padma's amazing. She's hot. She's very smart. She's intelligent. She knows food. She has an amazing palate. She's very, very funny. I mean, she lightened it up every day because you're looking at this person as this beautiful figure, like literally. You know,
Yeah.
she just had her baby. She was breastfeeding during in between the shows, all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I mean, she kept it real, and she would. We were sequestered where we didn't have our cell phones, we didn't have any computers, we had nothing.
Yeah.
So like when we would go into to get set up for the quick fire, we would walk into the kitchen, we would have to stand, they would have to get lighting set up, and then she would tell us about events that are going on in the world at that particular time. Because we couldn't watch, there was no
Oh,
TV. We didn't know what
interesting.
was going on. Because
Yeah.
they didn't want you to talk about anything that was relative that they would get on camera about that period of time because it wasn't relevant to when they were going to be airing the show. They want you to be able to just say, hey, we're taping in the summer. Right
Yeah.
now it's, the fall, but this is, and I thought that she was very her palate being world traveled, and I think also from her culture growing up with the use of spices and cooking with a lot of different spices and different things, I think gives her a great edge on food
Yeah.
because the culture basically knowing about how these spices work with the medicinal properties to your body and everything is to be able to grow up in a culture like that is amazing because it's not just like, oh, we're cooking Indian food. No, this is like a way of life. This is a part of us. This aids with uh, digestion and sight and all kind of things. And you don't put this spice with this pot because this is the effect you're getting. I think that she played a very valuable part in it. So I had a lot of respect for her during the show.
What was it like applying to the show?
It's hell. It's hell. It's a very long process. I was lucky that I'm very good friends with Michael Vitaggio, who won season 6. He The story is I was in Colorado. I was trying to reach out to him, shoot him a text and whatnot. I'm like, dude, why aren't you returning my calls and my texts? He finally gets back in contact with me. He's like, man, like I was just taping a show called Top Chef. It's going to be airing at blah 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 times. I didn't have my phone for like the last 30 days. I can't talk about what took place, but hey, I recommended you to go on the show because I think you would kill it. And I was like, man, I ain't going on no damn Top Chef. There's no way I'm doing that. And he says,
Why? Why
well,
did you say, yeah, there's no way I'm doing that?
I hadn't watched any other seasons other than the first season, and I just didn't. Um, I didn't have the time, and I didn't think of it as I wasn't. I was being disrespectful to something I didn't know. I was being ignorant to something I didn't know. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I didn't
You
give
didn't
it a
have the Top
chance.
Chef thing yet.
No, I didn't have the bug. I didn't have the bug. So I went back and watched. So first of all, Donna Lee, who was one of the producers, he said, well, Donna Lee's gonna be giving you a call, so you're gonna have to interview at least with her. And I was like, oh, okay. Next thing I know, I'm getting a call from some number out in LA, and next thing you know, it's her. And we talked for like an hour. And next thing I know, okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and apply. But yeah, it was.
Do you feel like it
Once
was
I
like a big personality thing? Like, was it like they were really trying to cue in on what kind of personality you had? Like how you would get, like, what would get you angry? What would, like, how do you work with other chefs? Was it a lot of that?
Yeah, oh yeah, because you gotta look at it. There's 16, 17 chefs. They do the interview process, the personality index that you have to take. There's one test you have to take that was like 500 questions, another one that was 1,000 questions. The interviews in front of like 12 people, so it was like an exaggerated chef's table, like a judge's table to see how you're gonna react with people firing questions off at you. How you gonna stand up and be poised? How you gonna communicate and articulate your points? They want to know that millions of people that are going to be on TV watching every Wednesday or Thursday are going to want to look at you. They're going to
Yeah.
want to hear your voice. They're going to hear your opinions and whatnot. So you have to fit into that. And then the other part of it is confrontation and drama. Like it can't just be like, oh, everyone is just like it's just like, butterflies and flowers and everything is great. No, it's reality TV. How is the personality of this guy Kenny, who's a Leo, who has a very alpha-like type of presence?
Yeah.
How is he going to go up against someone that's like an Angelo that might be a Sagittarius and has kind of like the same kind of personality?
Yeah.
Or a Taurus? How are they going to beef? Who are his allies going to be?
Did they actually ask you for your astrology sign? I mean, I guess they have your birthday.
Yeah, no,
Did
they
that come up?
literally, yeah, yeah. Your astrology sign. I mean, they're asking for your birthday, all that. And they tie all that in, and then you meet with a psychologist after your testing, and they let you know. I recommended you go on the show because of this, and this. And they tell you who you
Oh,
are, like out of the gate. You're like, man, you know me
you are
better than me.
cool. This is How was the house? Was the house like fancy?
It
Not
was
fancy?
amazing.
Was it weird to sleep in the same room as people?
I looked at it like it was. I went to culinary school and I was in a dorm. So for me, it was like being in a dorm room with my college roommate. So like I was in the same room with Kevin Spraga, Ed Arnold, and John initially. John got eliminated first. And then Arnold ended up going in the room with some of the other girls, and because it wasn't an issue because he's gay and he was just like doing his thing,
Yeah.
and so like me, Kevin, and Ed were kind of in our room, and we would always talk at the end, and then we kind of had our alliances as you'll see throughout the rest of the show. Like me and Kevin were really tight, Tiffany and Ed were really tight. I got up every morning, cooked breakfast for everybody every day.
What I wanted to ask you next, like, what were you guys eating during the show?
So at first let's just talk about the alcohol first because we're all chefs and a lot of us drink, right? It's not like we don't crave that cold beer or that cocktail at the end of a hard day.
Yeah.
So they gave us a lot of beer and wine, a lot of beers that we didn't necessarily particularly care for. We didn't have any liquor in the whole place, which sucked. And come to find out, season 6, they kind of ruined that for us because they were getting lit up, every day on their season. So they took the liquor out, and I was like, man, during Restaurant Wars,
God.
I remember Andy Cohen came back. Andy Cohen came back and was like, oh my God, this episode was amazing. Blah, 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 you guys are killing it. And he said, anything I can get you? I said, yes, you can get us some liquor to the house. We need some like Belvedere. We need some Tanqueray. We need some Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
We need some Patron. If you can have those bottles at the house, that'd be amazing. We get back to the house, they had it.
Was it like
Because
yeah?
it was like that.
Happy.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so you have like at one point, as I'm just starting to get to know you in season 7, you say my confidence level is a 10. I think that's like one of your first quotes. When they're doing those interviews with you, if you don't like say like super confident stuff, are they like getting you to say stuff? Because my boyfriend and I were watching this being like, everybody on here is super like self-centered, like narcissist, like everyone.
I know, right? I know. Well, you know what? If you don't think your shit doesn't stink, like everyone else is, like you
Fill out 1,000 questions.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, no, they don't. Well, let me say this: the producers will ask you questions to tee up to jog your memory of a time. Because, like, at one point, I got sick on the show, so like a couple of days in a row, I couldn't talk. I literally couldn't talk because I was sick, but I just kept cooking. But then later on, I did the interviews, and I have a pretty good memory. So for me, they would say, "Okay, Kenny, we're going to talk about," I think I had to go like 4 episodes to do interviews for. Each episode is 2 days. So like, and all the stuff that's going on through those days that you have to go back and remember. So they tee it up and say, okay, so Kenny, during this episode, when the school challenge, when you're staying at judge's table and Angelo makes a comment after Tom asks him, had you not had immunity, would you have made the same dish? And he says, oh, I can't answer that. Because they were trying to tee it up as he was trying to sabotage the team to try to get someone else to be kicked off.
Yeah.
That was a threat. Because it's not just, at the end of the day, like as you continue through our season, it's all about cooking. It's your food against everyone else's. if they feel that you're a threat and there's some challenges that they can kind of boat you off of, psychologically, you'll think that, oh man, they're trying to get me out of here. It's a mind game, like
Yeah.
literally. And you have to go in there confident. If I went back on,
Yeah.
everyone else would be irrelevant. Like I would have conversations, we'd be cool, whatever. But like I wouldn't. You don't worry about what someone else is doing. You want it to be fair and square. You want everyone to have equal opportunity, but
Yeah.
they do because it's a game. But at the end of the day, like I'm focusing on me. I don't care what if you grab this like because during my season, if I wrote down on my notes, okay, I'm gonna do asparagus. And when I go into Whole Foods, I'm gonna grab a bunch of jumbo asparagus or whatever they have.
Yeah.
And then I walked in, and maybe I'm on the fifth person going in. And you don't know what anyone else is gonna do. And then all of a sudden they all go and they see asparagus. They all start grabbing asparagus. Oh well, fuck! They're all grabbing asparagus. I'm not gonna grab asparagus now. I'm gonna go ahead and switch it up. I would have stayed true to what I was gonna do.
Yeah. I
I
was
ended up
wondering that
adjusting
about
later on.
like about do you think do you think the producers give Whole Foods a call beforehand and are like, you're gonna get a bunch of chefs, we have camera crews coming in?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, they
Yeah.
have to. They have to. Just from a liability standpoint, because we're in this environment that we're running around with carts. The cameras are going to be going around. They have to have a certain stock of product to be able to accommodate for our challenges. Like so, for example,
Yeah.
say I go in there and I decide I want to cook with beef short ribs. Well, when I go in there, I'm like, hey, do you have 50 pounds of beef short ribs? They say, yes, we do. I'm like, hey, can you come on the bandsaw, like a cow beef style across the bone. I need, half-inch thick slices. Yeah, they have to be prepared for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
But they have more stuff. So when we see you guys all crowded at like the butcher station, we're not like they actually have enough stuff for everybody. Because I'm
not
always like,
everything,
oh,
not everything, because you don't. I have no idea. Like if Kevin thinks about his dish, he's like, oh, I want to do pork belly. I have no
yeah,
idea if there's enough pork belly at the market. It's not guaranteed because it pops in your head that it's going to be there. Whole Foods didn't have certain things that you wanted. They made them stock up with more stuff than normal, probably. But it wasn't. I mean, if I wanted to cook with rabbits, that didn't mean that they were going to have rabbits there.
yeah.
Like
Okay. I want to give you a chance to talk about the people you love, like Todd, Richard, Ken, Keith Rhodes. Keith Rhodes.
hmm
Who like? Do you want to give us a couple shout outs of people who are listening here? Maybe need like a little more exposure to chefs that you really respect and can go look it up later.
Gosh, there's so many people. I mean, Keith Rhodes is out of Wilmington, North Carolina. He's a gentle giant, just amazingly talented chef. We were on the James Beardhouse boot camp. That's where we first met. We're also Top Chef alumni brothers. He was on season 6. So amazing, amazing spirit, just amazing guy. Todd Richards, back in our Ritz-Carlton days, when I was running the grill room, is at the time one of the only African American chefs running a Five Diamond restaurant in the company. He was just coming up as well and was running the cafe, and then I think later on went and running the dining room. So we used to talk all the time just about the challenges as a black chef coming up, and so what he's done and accomplished in his career with open biz restaurants and his books. He's super talented. He's out of Atlanta. Um,
So
you know,
was
you
he
got
like? I want to pause there for a second because like that experience at the Ritz was when you started to like what was the experience of you feeling like I do a lot of like I run the show here and I am not like my name is not getting out for that. Like what looking back like as a younger man, what would you have told yourself to like interrupt it sooner or ask for something or what went wrong and what can change?
Well, there's an interesting story I think ties into this. When I got promoted as the chef of the grill room, I was 23 years old. My father was dying from leukemia. I had just driven up to Cleveland to sit with him. I get a call from the executive chef at that time. His name is Stephen Schaefer, who hired me as an apprentice, let alone as the chef of the grill room. And he offered me the position. He says, "Hey, Matthew Medor, your chef is going to be. He just announced he's leaving to open up his own restaurant. I know you know this. We want to offer you the position as a chef of the grill." And I'm like, "Okay, this is great." I said, "Well, can I respond to you when I get back? My dad's dying, and
Yeah.
I'm not really focused on that right now." So when I got back, I sat down with Michael Karsh, who was the general manager at the time, Stephen Schaefer, and then Lawrence McFadden, who was a new executive chef at the time. Stephen Schaefer had just become food and beverage director, and they offered me the position. I accepted the position, and then it just went into like grinding it out. I was changing over the concept to Kenny's food versus it was Matt's food.
Yeah.
And we got rated by AAA. We got the 5 Diamond Award again. I had already cooked for the inspector the last 3 years. Even when my chef wasn't there, I was the acting sous chef. So I had already got the award for cooking, executing. And now it's time to be it for my food. Corporate came down they used to have the Balsham tennis tournament at Amelia Island for years. And a lot of the corporate guys were big into tennis. And the corporate food and beverage director is a guy by the name of Otto Svensson. He came down, and I'll never forget it because he came down and said he wanted to meet with the team at the grill room.
Yeah.
And and so servers and chefs, we met into the lounge. He walks in, he's in all white like he was going to Wimbledon. Like he just finished playing tennis. And then he tells a story about how he met with the inspector who gave us a AAA 5 Diamond Award and was asking, he was telling the story. He said, I asked this inspector, why the grill room in Amelia Island? They don't have the linen. They don't have the china. They don't have the glassware. Because at the time, we were very, very basic. The food really was what we were focused on. And we were working on making those changes. Well, he after that, he had said to the inspector, he said, listen, it was all about the food. Every time I took a bite, I wanted to come back. I wanted to take another bite. And I was just so impressed with the food and then the service. So like I'm sitting there like a proud peacock. I'm 20. I'm young. I'm 23. I'm a baby still in the culinary game.
As you were going to say.
Yeah, feathers fluffered up. Like
Yeah.
I was there. And then Otto was like, hey, you know what? Everyone was super proud. The meeting broke. He says, Kenny, I'd like to talk to you for a second. I said, sure. Yeah. We sat down at a table. It was at table 23. I'll never forget it because it was right by the window overlooking the ocean. And then he looked at me, and then this gentleman, I think at the time he was probably like 55, 56. I'm 23 years old. I'm a baby. And this is a white German, man that's sitting across from me. And he looked at me eye to eye, and he says, Kenny, do you want to be known as being one of the best chefs in the world? And I said, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I said, I would love that. I said, I'm working really hard at it. I'm doing my best. He says, well, you need to quit your job. He was like, you're not deserving of this job. Corporate didn't want you to have this job. We didn't ask you to have this job. Your leaders here decided to offer you something without checking with corporate. And we have somebody else in mind for this position. So I kind of sit back. I'm like, well, this is a interesting turn. And then he just starts talking. He goes, yeah, you're not deserving of this position. You're too young. You haven't been doing this long enough. We have someone else in mind, and I'm asking for you to resign.
Whoa.
This is what, yeah. So I looked at him. I'm like,
is your interpretation that he asked, do you want to be a world famous chef? He was expecting you to say no?
I don't know what he was expecting me to say, but he was basically saying that if you want to be that world famous chef, you need to leave and go work with other world famous chefs before you can take this position because you're not world famous on your own.
Do you how do you assess that advice as an older person, as an older chef?
Well, I was talking to my buddy Kevin about this today. Had I not grown up in a household that I was raised in, and wasn't raised with two very strong people, and my mother and my father, that basically allowed me to have an opinion and to be passionate about my views and whatnot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in this position where I am right now. I literally looked that man in his face. I said, well, I respect the fact that you just made that, you're making that assessment, and you're asking me that question, and you want me to step down. I said, but I'm not going anywhere. First of all, let's get something straight. I didn't ask for this job. I was offered this job. I didn't say, hey, can I have this job after Matt left?
Yeah.
They offered it to me because they looked at me and said, Kenneth Jason Gilbert is the most skilled person, and he's available to run this restaurant because he's already proved himself.
Yeah.
So when I told him that, I said, listen, I'm not going anywhere. If you want to fire me, you're going to fire me, and then you're going to have to deal with lawsuits and everything else after that. I said, but I'm not going anywhere. And so then he said, well, we'll see about that. He got up, he left. There was a huge blowout with my executive chef and him, who both of them were like godparents to their kids. They had a huge falling out. My F&B director at that time ended up resigning and left. Then we had a new food and beverage director that came in, Brian Goldbrantz, who was amazing. And then there was a new corporate person that took over from the corporate food and beverage director position. That Otto ended up becoming the general manager of the Ritz-Carlton Buckhead. Otto Svensson, Gerard Van Grinsman and Peter Schuck became the new corporate chef and the corporate F&B director. So then they came down and then they ate dinner in the grill room, and then we sat down after that, and then now I got two people, a Dutchman and then a Swiss guy, both older white guys, and I'm just like, oh shit, here we go again. Like they're about to ask me this question. He goes, GB, they call him GBG, very smooth cat. Like I love GBG. He goes, Kenny, do you want to be known as a world-class chef? I said, yes, sir, I do.
Where are they all like getting this? They're like sharing this question in their little boys group. Like, what's the deal with this question?
Exactly, literally. So then I looked at him. I said, yes, I do. Then he said, what can we do to help you elevate what you're already doing? Because we both just had dinner here, and this is one of the best meals we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
And we want to support you in your journey of becoming a world-class chef. We acknowledge that you're young, that you've only been here in Amelia Island, so you only have these experiences. What can we do? I said, what you can do is basically send me off on like sabbaticals, on stages, and where I can go and train in other countries to get more exposure, because I haven't had that. I said, and then I will bring that back here and make sure that I develop the team further. So that we're going to do that. They literally gave me, they said, every time you get that Five Diamond Award again, it's another $10,000 bonus. We're going to send you off to a country, wherever you want to go. There's a Ritz-Carlton, so you can train and went out for 30 days. And as long as you keep getting the Five Diamond Award, we'll keep this going. And they did. They sent me to Spain. I went to Barcelona and Palma Mallorca. I went and ate and dined at, I can't even tell you how many 2-star Michelin restaurants and whatnot, trained. I was in Japan. I was in Osaka, Nara, and Kyoto, trained over there. Toured through France, went to the Bocuse d'Or and Coupe de Monde. I was invited to do events all around the country with other Five Diamond chefs that were in the company. And it's because of Michael Karsh, Stephen Schaefer, Lawrence McFadden, Gerard Van Grinsman, Peter Schuck, Horst Schulze, the president of the company. I would come to Buckhead to do events with Xavier Solomon and Fred Moreno, and it was open arms. And they basically gave me a lot of love after if I didn't have the balls and the confidence that I did when I was 23 years old, looking at that man that was telling me that I wasn't good enough and I didn't deserve that position, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now. You wouldn't know Kenny Gilbert.
I love that you knew how to ask. I love that your parents gave you that confidence. And also I love that you knew what you needed, that you were able to say, like, how on earth were you so smart as a young person to know, like, what I need is more exposure. Like, that is just, it's just like proof of your brilliance. And like, we're so lucky to have your mind in the world and have you making food. We have 1 minute left. I totally want to ask you about Oprah, but I'm not. I'm going to ask you instead, like, if we could make one little thing at home and kind of like share in the spirit of you, what would that be? It could be cocktail. It could be a simple like combo of ingredients. What would it be so we can get a taste of your spirit?
You know, at home, I'm very easy. Like I said, I grew up with a Southern mother and a father that was from Chicago that loved to do barbecue. So like kind of barbecue is kind of like my happy place when I cook, and I think about my dad who passed back in '96. It's kind of a very, so I think anytime that if you decide to do something with barbecue, I think about when I would come home from college, from culinary school, and my dad would have saved some ribs from like the holiday. He would freeze them, then
Yeah.
pull them out, heat them up, glaze them up with his sauce, serve on a couple pieces of white bread. He would make some fresh potato salad.
We have
And to
10
me,
seconds. It's going to kick
that would
us
be,
off.
yeah. So ribs,
Get those
potato
Barbies
salad.
out. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you. I
Bye.
appreciate you.